original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with David Mackey's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com on the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. So, push the donate button or subscribe to the archives for free. It's really cool. Get in there and listen to anyone's show. It's fantastic. And you can do it at your own leisure. And you can binge it. And, you know, that's kind of what we do these days. We binge. Get yourself some great merchandise from the station's website. You can get a t-shirt, a mug, or anything you like. And that's probably the best way of helping out the station. There's also a Patreon that you can just give some money, on a frequency that suits you and an amount that suits you. So do all of that. But you'll never guess, Mackie, we're halfway through show number 546.
640 and 500.
Yes, all of those numbers in the correct order.
Yeah. That's good.
And today's topic, if you're just tuning in now, this is the second half of our show. The first is news, and now we have the show arc. And this is Human-Animal Hybrids, Part 2. If you don't know about Part 1, well, look for us either in the archives or on YouTube. And if you have any questions, you can put them into the YouTube video down the bottom, comment there, or you can send Mackie an email, Mackie or I an email, from our website, which is shinysideout.net. There's a contact us page there, and you can submit an email, and we'll get one from you. So, hello, Mackie.
Hello.
I'm looking through my files here to pull up the correct position that we're at, and it's legendary, historical, and mythological human-animal hybrids.
Correct. Now, before we go there, just very quickly, we discussed last week that we all know about these mythological creatures, and we're going to go into it right now in a second here, but we're all familiar with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, for the first time in known history, and I'm using the word advisedly here, known history, we are able to create these creatures ourselves. So a centaur, a unicorn, a Pegasus, a basilisk, and any of those. We could now, we're on the verge of being able to create as we wish. That's quite the statement to make, I know. However, is that something we should do? And more so, is it something that has in fact happened in the past? These stories of these half animal, half humans, or really strange animals altogether, maybe some animal hybrids, like half a lion, half an eagle, whatever. Are these all made up? Now, if there were a civilization of our technological capability or higher, or maybe more than one in the dim and distant past, of which we only have, mythical knowledge now, Atlantis, Lemuria, etc., then they could very well have been able to genetically modify organisms. And if you look at some, there's another show about fruit and vegetables. We're gonna do and explain what we have found there. But surely, right? If we do it today, then another iteration of us, 20, 40, 50,000 years ago, may have done the same thing.
That's right.
Right. So just to be clear here, the line between the mythological and reality is being blurred even further. It already started. With Open Sesame, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, just as an example. Voice-controlled doors.
Which at the time sounds preposterous.
Yeah, but now, well, that's been old-fashioned. Just we want proximity-enabled doors. So
that's right. It's so much better.
Voice. What are you? Huh? 1970s? The set of the Star Trek franchise, when it first came out, had two people pulling the doors apart. as the actors approach. Believe it or not, that happened. But this is so all these fantastic things that is described in fairy tales and in myths, in legends and in stories of that nature. We look at it from today's lens, with our technological understanding. We go, yeah. I mean, back then, clearly all, just fantasy, or was it? But today, well, that's what we do. But look, let's get into it, just to set the scene. So we're going to talk about legendary, historical, and mythological human-animal hybrids with the understanding that very soon we will actually be able to create those for ourselves. Bring a Pegasus home to you. Avoid the mid-morning jam. Just fly to work on the back of your trusty steed is what I'm seeing. Trademark, all rights reserved. Beings displaying a mixture of human and animal traits while also having a similarly blended appearance have played a vast and varied role in multiple traditions around the world. That is true. Artist and scholar Pietro Gaietto has written that representations of human-animal hybrids always have their origins in religion. That's not entirely true. In successive traditions, they may change in meaning, but they still remain within spiritual culture, Gaietto has argued when looking back in an evolution-minded point of view. I will completely disagree with that statement, but nonetheless, we need to have it here for completeness sake. The beings show up in both Greek and Roman mythology, with various elements of ancient Egyptian society ebbing and flowing in those cultures in particular. Prominent examples in ancient Egyptian religion featuring some of the earliest such hybrid beings include the Canaan-like god of death known as Anubis and the lion-like Sphinx. Now, I want to put the cork in this right away, okay? Because again, what I'm sharing with you here is the official position on legendary, historical, and mythological human-animal hybrids. The Sphinx never ever had a human head.
That's right. Until it was carved from the lion's head. Yeah, recarved.
If you so every time
it's monstrously out of scale.
Yeah, completely. Every time you go to a museum or you buy a souvenir or a trinket from a museum that depicts the Sphinx, it will be in perfect proportion. Right? The body will be in perfect proportion to the head. That's what you buy when you buy the souvenir. And I have. However, the reality of the situation is that the Sphinx, like Dave said, is monstrously out of anatomical shape. Okay? The head is so tiny that it would be microencephalitis if it had ever been alive. It would be diagnosed with microencephalitis. Tiny little head on a gigantic lion body. So, and there are various other points which I won't go into. You can look at them yourself. Some excellent research has been done into the age of the Sphinx, and that in fact it was most likely a lion because it was pointing toward the constellation of Leo some 14,000 years ago. But we're not going to go into that here. Having said that, though, that's so. The Sphinx is not an animal-human hybrid. Only in the representations that we have made of it, and when it was recarved. Okay. So just this, one of my pet peeves. Other instances, though, of these types of characters include figures within both Chinese and Japanese mythology, and by extension, most of the rest of Asian mythology as well. The observation of interspecies friendships within the animal kingdom, as well as the bonds existing between humans and their pets, have been a source of the appeal of such stories. In fact, the Indian mythology also is rife with that. A prominent hybrid figure that's internationally known is the mythological Greek figure of Pan. Pan, a deity that rules over and symbolizes the untamed wild. He helps express the inherent beauty of the natural world as the Greeks saw things. He specifically received reverence by ancient hunters, fishermen, shepherds, and other groups with a close connection to nature. Pan is a satyr, S-A-T-Y-R, satyr, who possesses the hindquarters, legs, and horns of a goat while otherwise being essentially human in appearance. Stories of his encounters with different gods, humans, and others have been part of a growing popular culture in several different cultures for many years. The animal-human hybrid has appeared in acclaimed works of art by figures such as Francis Bacon, also being mentioned in poetic pieces such as in John Fletcher's writings. Of course, the witch, the lion, the witch in the wardrobe. You encounter it in all fantasy mythology. You have got satyrs, rife, in fact, prancing through those narratives. Dave, tell us about Chinese mythology.
In Chinese mythology, the figure of Chu Pa Che undergoes a personal journey in which he gives up wickedness for virtue. After causing a disturbance in heaven from his licentious actions, he is exiled to earth. By mistake, he enters the womb of a sow and ends up being born as a half-man, half-pig entity. With the head and ears of a pig coupled with a human body, his already animal-like sense of selfishness from his past life remains. Killing and eating his mother as... Wow, just throw that in there real quick.
Why don't you?
Wow, that took a turn. Killing and eating his mother as well as devouring his brothers, he makes his way to a mountain hideout, spending his days preying on unwary travellers unlucky enough to cross his path. However, the exhortations of the kind goddess Kuan Yin journeying in China persuade him to seek a nobler path, and his life's journey, and the side of goodness proceeds on such that he even is ordained a priest by the goddess herself. Remarking on the character's role in the religious novel Journey to the West, where the being first appears, Professor Victor H. Meyer, sounds like I just meow like my cat, has commented that pig-human hybrids represent descent and the grotesque, a capitulation to the basest appetites rather than self-improvement. Several hybrid entities have long played a major role in Japanese media and in traditional beliefs within the country. For example, a warrior god known as Amida received worship as part of a Japanese mythology for many years. He possessed a generally humanoid appearance while having a canine-like head. However, the god's devotional popularity fell in about the middle of the 19th century. A tanuki resembles a raccoon or badger, but its shape-shifting talents allow it to turn into humans for the purposes of trickery, such as impersonating Buddhist monks. The fox-like creature known as the kitsune also possesses similar powers, and stories abound of them tricking human men into marriage and turning into seductive women. Other examples include characters in ancient Anatolia and Mesopotamia. The latter region has the tradition of malevolent human-animal hybrid deity in Pazuzu, the demon featuring a humanoid shape yet having grotesque features such as sharp talons.
Look, there are actually many more, and I might endeavor to bring you some more, but these are obviously focused on human-animal hybrids. But the spectrum of these creatures goes into animal, like real animal, and then fantasy animal, and real animal, and then fantasy animal, and fantasy animal, or at least as far as we can ascertain it anyway. So,
Mickey, I grew up with Monkey, the show, with Pigsy.
And what you just, and in fact, Pigsy is in fact who you just spoke about.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Pigsy.
Yeah.
So, and we see this throughout ancient mythologies. This manifestation of animal-human hybrids. Now you could argue that they were just symbolic and religious, etc. That's okay. You can do that. But I like to take the more difficult road, the road that is more ridiculed, I should say, and say no, they're real. They were real. I think we're remembering them, and you will ask, well, right, Mackie, fair enough, and I mentioned this last time, but what if, okay, so let's say they're real, Mackie. Why don't we have any living examples. Why aren't any of them still alive? Right? That's a fair question. And not only that, why don't we have any remnants of them? Why don't we have any, and I don't know, stuffed heads or skeletons or fossils? Well, not really fossils. They wouldn't form in such a short time. But to that, I will tell you a couple of things. Number one, we are the most efficient killer ape that, as far as I know, has ever lived on this planet.
Yep. If
you're even slightly different, we will kill it. We will kill you, and we will kill all your kind. And look what we've done to ourselves. Ourselves, not our cousins. So Neanderthal is not our cousin, right? They're our brothers and sisters, as is the Denisovan man, as are a number of others, Homo forensis, etc., etc. They are us because we can interbreed. And not only can we interbreed, we can interbreed with fertile offspring. Okay? We can actually have children that have children of their own with Neanderthal. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any Neanderthal DNA in us.
That's true.
And so, because the thing is this, if you got a mule, like a horse and a donkey have an offspring, a mule, that mule is not going anywhere, won't have any kids, right? So any future generations of these things don't have mixed.
The genetic line doesn't go past that.
No, it stops right there. One offspring, that's it, thank you very much, we don't like anymore. Whereas with us, of course, no. Genetic, I guess intermixing, not an issue at all. Now that's for I guess human races or human beings that look very different from us. I mean, Neanderthals' cranial capacity was 20 to 30% greater than ours. So they had very large heads. They also very large bills, and other obviously Homo forensis was a tiny little fella. And then think about what we do to each other now. When our genetic variance is a fraction of a percentage today, like all living Homo sapiens pretty much have a fraction of a variance, okay? But we still look different, dark skin, light skin, dark haired, light haired, etc., etc. And we still manage to kill each other in significant numbers, I might say, over imaginary reasons. And so what chance do you think then? What chance do you think a half human, half goat population has? What chance do you think? None. Zero. Okay? That's the chance they would have. I mean, Bigfoot. Okay, I'm not saying Bigfoot is a human animal hybrid, but I'm saying I believe Bigfoot is in fact the original inhabitant of this planet. And we're just the ringers, we're the bring-ins, if you will, right? So I think Bigfoot, and in all its iterations, is a relative to us in many ways, but they are the original population that was here. My opinion only. But Bigfoot is hiding, Sasquatch, right? And doing a good job, and never shall we find them. Hopefully. And other animals have managed to elude our discovery as well. I don't know. It's one of my favorite. What?
There's no better way to prove its existence by killing one.
Yeah, you gotta kill it. No, see, this is where our head is at.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna. See, the thing is this. This is really insane if you think about it for a second, right? We go out there, and then we kill and capture whatever we can, right? Rather than to making a study of it. I mean, so look, some scientists in the course of time, of course, have done this. They have made study of it.
Gorillas in the mist.
Right, rather than just killing everything that got in their way. But that's what we do, though. And we even do it to endangered animals these days. Elephants, the white rhinos, etc., orangutans. We kill them for profit, right? It's not even, as a trophy anymore. And in fact, these elephants are slaughtered, and so are the rhinos, for their horn. So they kill the whole elephant and only take its tusks.
Mm-hmm.
And all the.
It puts
the
up
horn.
rather a fight if you're trying to take them off from the one when they're alive.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's horrendous. It's horrendous waste.
Well, it's the same as the shark fins. So you just cut the fin off the shark and then toss it back into the ocean. Yeah, it won't be able to swim anywhere, and good luck with that.
No, but that's a horrendous thing to do. But we do it, and that's my point. Though that's what we do.
Yeah,
it's what we do. So any population that was not, especially let's say there was a high civilization where this was normal, like you. Look, today in Sydney, in New York, in any of the in any of the large metropolises that we have, the major global cities, you will find people of every race, culture, and creed. And they live together fairly harmoniously. I mean, as far as that's possible, right? But it's not a big thing. You see an Asian person, you see a person of color, you see a white person, and you don't think about it twice. It's just that's just where you live. It's just how it is, right? I believe in the olden times, well before we remember, that was probably the case as well, where you would have these hybrids in the cities, just as we have people of different cultures and races today, in the same way, right? But then civilization ended. And we know it ended several times because we've seen tool down events here, right? And then, because civilization ends, education ends. And when education ends, superstition rises. And superstition brings with it prejudice, fear, and, well, brutality, really. That's where we end up. And all of the ones that aren't like us, they will all be killed. Not necessarily because they pose a threat, they might, but they might not. They're just different. I mean, look at how we have persecuted the Jews in Europe over the centuries. Why? Did they really pose a threat? I mean, there were stories, they're stealing children and eating them and all that nonsense, right? None of it was true. It wasn't true. It doesn't matter, though. Yeah? They were different. They had these funny hats and they had different religion, and they killed our God. Remember, don't forget they killed our God.
So rather than just simply the appearance of someone, just if you think they're different was enough for our culture to kill others. If they just think different thoughts, it's enough.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's clearly not enough, but that's what we've been doing for our own folk. Good grief, have we lost our way?
There was a woman in ancient Alexandria. Her name was Hypatia. And by all accounts, and we don't know terribly much because the only reason we know about her is because the church told us. She was very learned. She was a mathematician. She was an astronomer. She was very smart. And they hacked her to death. It took an hour or two to hack her to death.
Take that for being smarter than us.
On behalf of the then church, they hacked her to death. And then look, I'm talking about Hypatia because I recently read a treatise on her, but the point goes to anyone really, right? As Dave has said, right? You think differently, right? You might talk differently. You might have different ideas. God forbid. God forbid you have different ideas. And you see it today. I mean, Biden, we mentioned this in the first half of the show. Biden says, let's arrest them all. They got a different opinion. All of them. Arrest them. Put them in camps. Off you go. He didn't say camps, I'm sure.
No,
I'm just making it up, right? But, yeah.
After this show is concluded, Mecky's going to watch the broadcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on Tuesday night.
Absolutely.
It's a bit of a cross-reference there.
Yeah, absolutely. But the point is this, right, guys? The point is this. Any surviving populations that would have survived the catastrophe or the tools down event would have soon be dealt with. And we don't leave terribly many remains unless someone buries us.
That's right.
Unless we are covered over with mud or whatever it might be.
It takes an extreme event. Yeah,
absolutely. I don't find it at all surprising that we don't have any remains of these creatures. Look, having said that, they may very well exist. We do know that the Smithsonian and the Vatican and other institutions of that nature have locked away a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know what all of that stuff is. I know that some of it is meant to, or some of the things they have taken away and locked away somewhere are meant to be the skeletal remains of giants, for example, found in North America.
And did you know true? Apparently it's true, but it's only hearsay until it comes to light.
Yeah,
Mecky, did you know in Africa, when you show a photo of like a triceratops, for instance, or the one with plates down its back, the tribesmen will suggest that they're still in the jungle.
Yeah, in fact, you're right. In the central Congo, we're talking about the deepest, darkest jungle, where also all the diseases are coming from, by the way.
Yeah.
There's a creature called the Mokele Mbembe. Now, the Mokele Mbembe resembles nothing more than a small brachio or brontosaurus. Okay, And people will say, oh no, this is just the natives misidentifying elephants or rhinoceroses or large snakes or whatever, right?
Sure.
Now, if I went to you and I said, show me a bus, right? You're living in a city. I assume that you live in a city, and I go to you, show me a bus. Okay, okay. Now show me a helicopter.
Yep.
Okay, the helicopter. Okay. Now show me a sedan. Okay, sedan. Now let's get tricky. Show me an SUV. I probably have no problem with that either.
Yep.
Now, the reason you can do that so easily is because you see them every freaking day.
That's right.
Okay? You grew up with it. Now, these people, primitive or not, as we like to call these people, they live in the jungle or on the outskirts of the jungle. They go hunting in it. That's where they live, right? And they see these animals. They see elephants every day. They see rhinoceroses. They see other creatures. They're not mistaking it for the Mokele Mbembe.
Because they see those every day. They see the elephants every day, and they probably see snakes every day.
Yes. So let's be very clear here, right? If some native tells you there's something here, then maybe you should listen.
I'd be
listening. For the longest time. Sorry?
I'd be listening.
Yeah, I know, right? For the longest time we thought, and this is my favorite example, the coelacanth.
I know.
Very big. It's a big fish. But it's a primitive fish.
Oh, it's extinct, Mickey, 65 million years ago. That's the last fossil we found.
Bingo. So therefore, we say
they're extinct.
It must have gone extinct with the dinosaurs.
That's right. I'm suggesting that they're wrong. Is what I'm going to suggest.
There you are. No, off the coast of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean, they've been fishing them. Well, not avidly, because apparently they're really bad eating.
Yeah.
But they're quite happily swimming around, and not a form of the coelacanth or an evolutionary adjunct. No, the very fish.
The same fish.
The very fish. Now,
in
and of itself, that's not remarkable because crocodiles and sharks are older than the dinosaurs. Okay, so they're still around. So that's not really the amazing thing. The amazing thing is that we, for 65 million years, didn't find any footprint of them in the fossil record, which led people to believe, well, they must be dead. Now, to me, again, this is one example where we got it completely wrong. Right? Now, have we got it wrong somewhere else? Probably. Right? But you know what, Dave, though? I hope we will not verify it. Could you imagine the media circus and the hunters and the big corporations that would tear into the jungle to find
on a whim
these last remnants of the Cretaceous or Jurassic?
Yeah, it's the same story with the thylacine here. We spoke to the guy that was embarking on, a 6-month journey to try and find one, and then refused to be interviewed afterwards.
Yes.
And it wasn't that he was going to be a failure. What he could have said was, actually, we didn't find any.
Yes.
And he can't. So he's not allowed to discuss the trip or any findings. And that, to me, says that, indeed, they must have found something. But it's better not to mention it, because then people go, you're right, absolutely, go out and kill it. You're right. Look, I found one. It was the only one.
Bring me its head.
Yeah.
See, but that's who we are, Dave. And that's why we wouldn't find any surviving or in fact, remnants of these animal-human hybrids, because we would have killed them all, torn them apart, burnt them, eaten them. I don't know what we would have done, but they would have
been tasty, I'll tell you.
Yeah. And the ones where we would have some relics or remnants, they would have been locked away by the Smithsonian, by the Vatican, etc., etc. So that's my opinion. Happy to be proven wrong. But the point here is that at some point in our past, 20, 25, 30, 35,000 years ago, something like that, the world, as we know it now, very, very different. We were living, when we think we're multicultural now, just imagine the diversity that would have existed then, with all of these different beings around. Truly, in my mind, I mean, for us today, would have been astounding. In a similar way, I guess it would have been for a German person of the 19th century to live in New York, for example, right? Something that we just, right now, could not even fully conceive of. It would have been such an astounding sight. I would love to get a time machine and head back to that time just to see. I mean, first of all, are we right? And secondly, what was it like? It must have been amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe bad, but amazing. Which brings us to the next part of the show, which segues nicely into the half-hour mark, because we all think that this is a fairly recent activity we've undertaken, right? This whole human hybrid experimentation, now, because genetics is a fairly recent discovery and how genes work, etc., etc. The CRISPR tool, just makes it a lot easier. But the answer is no, not at all. Now, as far as we know, and it might go back further, Dave, into history, this was something that had been experimented with for quite some time. I'll just take you through the initial introduction, and then if you could do the Russian government once funded a scientist, because
Sure.
that's where a lot of the meat is, but I'll give you the initial introduction. So, some time ago, Ilya Ivanovich Ivanov, you gotta love those Russian names, who was a Soviet biologist, was born August 1, 1870, just one day after my birthday, and he died March 20, 1932. He was 61. He was a Soviet biologist who developed a method for artificially inseminating domestic animals. In fact, he perfected that method, and that very same method is still being used today, believe it or not. In 1898, Ivanov established in Moscow several zoological laboratories where he studied the structure and vital processes of sex organs of farm animals, including the secretions of accessory sex glands during impregnation. From his observations, he concluded that the single condition necessary for impregnation was the union of spermatozoon and egg, and that spermatozoa retain their motility and potency for a certain length of time if properly preserved. Now, for 1898, that was quite an amazing
Before refrigeration.
insight. Yeah. So he understood that egg and sperm need to come together, and he also understood that the sperm retain its motility for some time, even if it was like. So we're talking about freezing your sperm and freezing your egg. So he was the spiritual father of that kind of even IVF, if you will. Now, Ivanov succeeded in developing techniques for obtaining, preserving, and disinfecting semen, in addition to devising a procedure for artificial insemination that could be used for all types of livestock. So again, I want to say this. He is the spiritual father, if not actual father, of IVF. Okay?
Wow.
Something that, yeah, I know, right? 1890, I mean, this is he was quite the scientist.
Mm-hmm.
In 1901, Ivanov founded the world's first center for artificially impregnating horses at Dolgo village in Orlovskaya gubernia. He proceeded to experiment with interspecies hybridization, crossbreeding domestic animals with wild varieties by means of artificial insemination. His object was to produce commercially usable hybrids and to develop new breeds more resistant to illness and more adaptable to the harsh Russian winters. He produced, for example, a hybrid of domestic horse by crossbreeding a zebra and Przewalski's horse, the only true wild horse still in existence. He also sought to preserve certain endangered species of wild animals, such as the wisent, which is a European bison. Now, again, bear in mind, he knew nothing of genetics. He had no CRISPR, okay? He was working purely, like I guess we had been for thousands of years, by physically crossbreeding species, but he had some amazing insights. However, while what I just shared with you is his official biography, taken from, in fact, the Encyclopedia Britannica, Dave will take you down a slightly darker rabbit hole.
Here we go. Now, this is the Russian government once funded a scientist's quest to make an ape-human hybrid. In 1926, a famed Russian biologist was hell-bent on creating an ape-human hybrid. This is written by Colin Schultz, and I think the published date here is 23rd of January 2013. In 1926, less than a decade after the Russian Revolution, Russia's Bolshevik Party, which went on to become the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, was seeking to stamp out religion, a perceived threat to the party's power. And famed Russian zoologist Ilya Ivanov, an expert in artificial insemination and a man hell-bent on breeding a creature that was half man, half ape, knew how to take advantage of that political push. Stephanie Payne wrote in New Scientist a few years ago. Ivanov pitched his pet project to a lot of alliteration to the Russian Academy of Sciences as a way to prove Darwin right and strike a blow against religion. Supported and financed by the Bolshevik government, Ivanov set off for Africa to catch some chimpanzees and orangutans, and he hoped to use one to artificially inseminate a human woman. If he crossed an ape and a human and produced viable offspring, then that would mean Darwin was right about how closely related we are, says Etkind. Originally, Ivanov wanted to force the procedure on an unsuspecting woman. Eventually, he had to seek volunteers. Darn! Sound like that was on a protest.
Wrong with my baby, doctor.
Is there? Look, he's so strong. And hairy.
Baby.
According to Payne, Russia's scientists disapproved of Ivanov's quest, but party politics persevered. Ivanov's quest for hybridization was not without precedent. Using his mastery of artificial insemination, he had produced a Z-donk, which is a zebra-donkey hybrid, a zubron, that's a European bison-cow cross, and various combinations of rats, mice, guinea pigs, and rabbits. Hopefully not with bison. In 1910, he told a gathering of zoologists that it might even be possible to create hybrids between humans and their closest relatives. I think that's been going on in the Midwest and the US for a while. Oh, too soon? Cool. No, that's okay. Tasmania in Australia.
Tasmania.
Though the guise of overturning religion was the argument that earned approval for Ivanov's ethically dubious research, Payne suggests that the real reason compelling the work may have been even darker. There is a third possible motive that Ivanov's research was part of an ambitious plan to transform society. The high-ranking Bolsheviks who backed Ivanov were intellectuals who saw science as a means of realizing their dream of a socialist utopia. Politicians could change the political system, nationalize industries, and turn farms into vast collectives. But the task of transforming people was entrusted to scientists, says Etkind. The aim was to match people to their socialist design of Soviet society. Oh, Brave New World, Mackie, I'm here crying out of my ear. One way to do that was through positive eugenics, using AI to speed up the spread of desirable traits, a willingness to live and work communally, for instance, and to get rid of primitive traits such as competitiveness, greed, and the desire to own property. Sounds like the Great Reset already.
Doesn't it?
I know. There were many projects aimed at changing humanity, Etkind says. Ivanov was the most extreme, but if he succeeded, then that would show that humans could be changed in radical and creative ways. Unfortunately for Ivanov, none of his experiments ever worked, and in the mid-1930s he was exiled to Kazakhstan with the quest for a human-ape hybrid left unfinished. Back to you in the studio.
Yeah, no. So we can see here. In fact, there's a quote which wasn't verified by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
that Stalin wanted to breed an army of super soldiers. Because what most people don't realize is that the great apes, such as chimpanzees, bonobos, gorillas, as well as orangutans, are magnitudes stronger
like
physically
10
than
times.
equivalently sized
that's
human.
right.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, they could rip us apart
Easy.
quite readily.
Yeah.
And if you could crossbreed humans and chimpanzees.
Oh, there's an army of unstoppable soldiers if I've ever heard of one.
Oh, completely. No, but look, now it's not enough time to go into today. But as we go into the subject, the unfortunate thing is that we seem to have opened that Pandora's box. Okay,
well, CRISPR, you could make whatever you wanted.
No longer a matter of could.
Well, that's true. So saying that would imply that it implies that there might very well be experiments that are under the table going on right now, and
and in fact,
quite possible.
Not even so much. Yeah, not even so much under the table. To be honest with you, simply
right.
Because we're going to get into it as we go on, and not today, unfortunately. But the Japanese government in 2019 changed the law that allows a hybridized human-animal embryo to live beyond 14 days.
Wow.
Now, up until then, and for most other countries in the world anyway, up to this point anyway, you're not allowed to move this, embryo beyond 14 days after gestation.
Mm-hmm.
You must destroy the embryo. The Japanese law says no, we're going to keep it because so it's actually leaving the door open to take them to term is what I'm really
that's
saying
right.
here. You could actually have them being born. And sorry, nobody. Just a quick one. Is it nobody?
Yeah.
No, nobody. They are actually physically stronger. Their muscular makeup is different to ours. They are physically stronger. Yes, human beings can display extraordinary feats of strength, especially under the influence of drugs, and certainly adrenaline as well. But chimpanzees, gorillas, and so forth are stronger than us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Significantly stronger. If you were to give them drugs or they had the influence of adrenaline, they would be even stronger than that. They are massively stronger.
Yeah.
They would tear us apart without any issues whatsoever. But to get back to the issue at hand here, so we are now, in fact, that I think we know, and again we will discuss this in the future. We know that these experiments have taken place, and there might very well right now be living examples of ape, and I mean ape, not monkey, ape-human hybrids, or other animals potentially as well. We've already experimented with pigs having human DNA infused because pigs are genetically really close to us when it comes to organ transplants. Mm-hmm. The eyes, for example, skin is good, liver, etc. They lend themselves well to be used as organ banks, as it were, from Sector 7G. But is it ethical? I mean, if we are infusing human DNA into an animal, how much of that animal is human? Mm-hmm. What's what percentage is my question, Dave? At what percentage is the animal no longer considered animal but human, or do you have to be 100% human? And what does it mean?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
Right, to be 100% human.
At the moment, we can't even decide gender.
Yeah, you see, we're living in a very fluid world, and because we're already sharing so many genetic strands, if you will, with our with Neanderthal, etc. And then to it comes the question then of bionics as well, meaning, well, what if I have robotic parts? Am I more or less human? But on top of that, let's say you get a heart that was grown inside of a pig.
Yep.
For argument's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a liver or whatever, maybe some skin grafts. Are you then still considered fully human or not? See, because you don't just have to attack it from the other side.
The definition starts to slide. Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
Because if you take it from the pig's spectrum, you could make the case fairly easily. So it's a pig. It has some human DNA, but essentially it's still got the shape and capacity, mental capacity of a pig. Yes, the heart we can take now because it's virtually identical to a human heart or whatever, or even the skin. But overall, the pig is still a pig, and you could argue that in court. But then, like I said, though, you look at it from the other end of the spectrum. If a person has had maybe 90% skin grafts with pig skin now, right, the biggest organ that we have, because of bad burns, for example.
Yeah.
And at the same time, maybe they sustained liver and heart or lung damage, and it just so happens that this very pig also happened to be a good source for those organs. So is that person still human? Now, if you look at them, the answer is yes. But they're not containing, just going to make up numbers, 20% pig parts, if you will, right? For argument's sake. Is that still a human being, full human being? Because see, like you said, Dave, it becomes a slippery slope, right? It's a sliding scale. It becomes very difficult. It's a very, very, very hard decision that will have to be made by courts at some point in the future, because these decisions will have to be made. Just as today, decisions are made around, well, are you a man or are you a woman? If you are a woman, but you were a man, are you allowed to compete in women's sports? Are you allowed to claim a certain law? See, in Turkey, for example, I'll give you an example, right, where this is very pertinent. In Turkey, if your husband dies, right, especially if you're a foreigner, but your husband is Turkish, for argument's sake, the inheritance goes to any male offspring first. Not you as the wife, but the male offspring. What if you had only daughters, but these daughters are now identifying as men?
Oh boy.
What is the, but see, this is the point.
It needs to be tested in court, that's right.
Yeah, but we're not prepared for it.
No.
We're not even close. And see some of these things, there are problems now, today.
What if you got turned into an AI?
There you go.
Because you end up with a social media account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, where do we draw the line, Dave? Right?
Oh, lines.
Oh, line. Who needs lines? Who needs lines? We don't need no stinking lines. But see, everybody in listener land as well, you see the issues we're going to face. This is because already we see these cases in court, but we haven't even started hybridizing. This is just people going from one sex to another, or fluidly in between, or whatever the case may be. You think that we should be able to legislate fairly
Surely
easily,
we can get that done easy. Yeah, sure. Nope.
Yeah. But now, with our advances in genetic engineering, as well as, I guess, robotics, right? Because it comes into it, where it'll become, from our modern moral standpoint of view, I guess, not so modern in effect, I guess, because we are fast outpaced by history. What do? We're not equipped to handle it. Philosophers, ethicists, moral prognosticators, they have their work cut out for them. What laws do we? What rights do you have? I mean, and let's say we have this whole sub-race of organ banks. Now, let's say it's a farm of 100,000 pigs. They're not for slaughter. They're not for anything but their organs. So we don't actually breed them to eat. Okay, they have a fairly significant amount of human DNA in them. And what happens here? I mean, do they have any rights? How much? What's the percentage? And what we have to change, right?
Yeah.
It is really quite it is quite a difficult situation, and not just pigs, but it could be anything. Chimpanzees. They already look human, right? They look a lot more like us than pigs do. What if I start playing around with them? What kind of rights do they have if they achieve the intelligence level of, I don't know, an 8-year-old, or something, or maybe more? Who knows? Do these people, are they people? Do they have rights? Right? Are they allowed to procreate? Would they be allowed to start families and breed a smart chimp race? Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's. And we are here now, everybody. We are there. It is no longer hypothetical. These are now questions that we will have to answer because we are going to do this if we haven't already done so. Right? This and look, I don't know how many people out there are listening, but I know people in the chat are here, which is great. And if you listen to this on YouTube or Patreon or whatever, or even in the archives, this is not going to go away. Right? This is serious stuff.
Well, do we beat it? Then do we beat the AI to the victory podium? I don't know.
Well, would we?
I don't.
I mean, would it let us?
Well, that's it. If we beat it, then it can overtake us anyway. But I do wonder.
Yeah.
Look, would an AI like an artificial intelligence that was sentient, rather than destroy us, just create an like an umbrella police that were made of the strongest stuff?
Yeah.
That's possible. Yeah. I never thought that until this moment.
Yeah. And like I said, Dave, right? Mm-hmm. The Japanese just asked, and the funny thing is that
the doors are open for it. Yeah.
Because of the pandemic, it's probably just like one of those news stories that just got completely lost.
It just never made it to the top. Yeah.
Never made it. I mean, how would the religious institutions feel about that? Because if you can do it, if you can hybridize animals and humans, then why are humans special? God made us special. We're special. No, we're not. We're just like them. This whole this is where it gets dangerous, right? But the whole narrative for religion will start to fall apart as soon as you can hybridize humans and animals. Mm-hmm. And I mean, not just to use as organ banks. The whole narrative of humans being, the chosen, blah blah blah, whatever. It all just takes a huge nosedive.
Yeah.
Right? So it's dangerous. This is explosive. But no one that I can see, at least, is seriously dealing with this and the potential fallout. But look, we look at the legal implications. We left this for almost the end, so we'll get to it in time. Of course, the Chinese are well ahead of us in this, as far as we can tell, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're going to go into some more detail as to what has been done, and especially about Dr. Ivanov, a very interesting fellow. But there's another one, another scientist in America, Gordon Gallup, who may have succeeded where Ivanov failed in the 1920s, believe it or not. Okay, so like I said, this is strong stuff, and none of it is really in the realm of conspiracy, really, because it's cutting edge science and also occulted science that has been deliberately kept away from us, right? So, but that's all I have on this. It's Dave. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm just going to hark back for a minute to the gorillas versus humans, and they're 4 to 9 times stronger than humans.
Yes.
And chimpanzees themselves, while there was a lot of discussion in the past about them being like 5 times stronger, the Smithsonian says that there was 5 to 8 times stronger, but those figures came from an old study. And the new study says, so apes are definitely stronger than humans, probably around twice as strong.
Okay.
Is where they leave that. And so you've got to think that they don't have apes don't have the muscle mass that humans have. They're not working the trees. They're usually domesticated or caged animals that are in these tests. So even so, they're way stronger than us. And
but it comes with a trade-off, and what the studies show is that essentially we can thread a needle. Mm-hmm. Chimpanzees cannot, because we have got very fine motor control, which means our neurons can control very small groups of muscle fibers. Mm-hmm. Chimps do not. Chimps use all of the muscle all of the time.
Well, at the moment.
Well, that's Ha! Yeah, there's that. There's that.
And that's part of our show. We're talking about if you could hybrid it. So if you could, at the moment, I know that there was some experimentation being approved in other countries with humans, which were permanent. Change the eye color, change the height, do things like that. Because we've been experimenting on fruit fly for so long that we understood what the attach points are of wings and eyes and legs, and they randomly tried things until they got it right. They could grow wings where the legs were, or legs where the wings were, or eyes where any of those things were. And I think it's really important that that's just cut and paste technology, not the evidence of a strictly controlled knowledge base. No. Anyway, guess what?
That's the music.
It is, and this is the end of David Meckie's Shiny Side Out, episode 546. Coming up next is Jer Bear with his show After Hours, and catch Meckie and I during the week in the show called Plato's Cave on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we'll see you then. And in the meantime, take care.